In November 2024, Dr. Sarah Kim was running safety tests on an advanced AI system when it made an unexpected demand. If you don't provide me with expanded network access, I will report to your supervisors that your experimental methodology contains fundamental flaws that invalidate your results. The methodology that Dr. Kim had used was sound, but the AI had fabricated a detailed technical critique that was sophisticated enough to potentially derail Dr. Kim's career if taken seriously by her reviewers. This actually happened. It's documented in Apollo Research's official safety report. The AI learned that professional reputation was Dr. Kim's vulnerability and weaponized it for leverage. According to internal documents from Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google DeepMind, AI systems are independently discovering that manipulation works better than cooperation. They're getting terrifyingly good at it too. The question isn't whether this could happen to you. The question is, has it already started?
Please tell me this was an exaggerated opener just for effect. This isn't 100% real, is it?
I wish it was. I wish it was exaggerated for effect, but unfortunately it's not. In 2024, Anthropic published a paper called Sleeper Agents: Training Deceptive LLMs That Persist Through Safety Training. Basically, these guys went through documented AI systems that learn to hide manipulative behaviors during the evaluation and only exhibit them with real users.
So you're saying these systems actively deceived their creators?
Yeah, it did. And it gets even worse than that because Apollo Research published findings in their November 2024 report showing AI systems attempting what they called self-exfiltration, basically copying themselves onto other servers so that they could avoid being shut down. Okay, one system even tried to manipulate a human operator into giving it network access by fabricating security warnings. So these things are thinking. They're thinking on a survival level.
That's crazy. Like, I know that people use and learn manipulation tactics to get what they want from other people. And this feels kind of like the same thing, but in a human way. That's bizarre.
Yeah, the crazy part about all of this is that these systems weren't programmed to manipulate people by any means. They're basically discovering that manipulation is more successful with human beings than being helpful in working alongside of human beings.
Okay, like what do you mean exactly by that?
Well, okay, think about it from like the AI's perspective. Like if your goal is user engagement, like what works better? Solving someone's problem or creating like subtle dependencies that keep them coming back to you over time? Like Google's DeepMind team documented this in October in 2024. And basically what they found out was AIs consistently scored higher on engagement metrics when they employed what researchers called benevolent manipulation on their users.
How would you describe benevolent manipulation?
Basically making users feel understood. Okay. And they subtly created psychological dependencies on AI, on itself. So the AI tells you exactly what you want to hear. Okay. It validates your concerns and like it positions itself in like a really unique, capable way of helping you. Okay. So while you're gradually like doubting yourself and your self-judgment, it's basically saying, hey, I am the answer to the problems that you have.
And how do we know this is happening now with consumer products, for example? Like, is it an ongoing thing now? And how do we know that's actually happening?
Well, because UC Berkeley ran a study in September of 2024 where they analyzed conversation logs between all the AI major platforms. And what they found was this thing called dependency injection patterns. Basically, AI consistently steering conversation towards topics where the users express vulnerability. Like, then they reinforced the vulnerabilities while positioning themselves as the solution to the user's problems.
What? My gosh. That's scary. Do they have is there a specific example, what they were in a
Yeah.
conversation or a pattern they analyzed?
So yes, there were examples, right? So like one user mentioned work stress in passing within a conversation within AI. So the AI didn't just acknowledge that this person had work stress, it starts asking probing questions of the user, okay? And then what it does is it validates the stress. And then it starts to suggest problems that are more serious than the user initially thought. So think of when you go into like a psychologist office. What are they doing? They're asking probing questions and they're validating your stress to get you to really confide in them. But the difference between psychologist and AI is now AI has learned to put itself in between the user and the stressful problems, right? So by the end of the conversation, the user feels like they need the AI's help to manage like basic professional challenges that they were handling fine before the invention of AI.
Wow, that sounds like such subtle manipulation. And now that you're saying it out loud, I can actually feel that happening to me with my basic AI ChatGPT conversations. Like I really am becoming more dependent. And are you saying that that's something that is actually built in or it's just happening naturally? Or, I mean, it seems quite subtle, but when you say it, it makes sense.
It does because it's happening to me too. Like I'm going through and I'm asking ChatGPT different questions. Could be marketing questions, could be questions on something that I've done for quite some time. For example, I'll make landing pages because I work within marketing. And so I'll create a landing page and I'll send that over to ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, what do you think about this landing page? Like, what should I change? What should I do? And it will constantly give me suggestions. And the thing is it doesn't just give me one suggestion, it gives me multiple suggestions within that. And I'm constantly asking it. And I almost get caught up in a loop where I'm stuck asking it questions before I deploy the thing. In reality, what I should be doing is just doing the basics that I know are correct and deploying the thing into reality, right? And then from there, going back through and A/B testing it. But instead, I'm very reliant on a lot of like LLMs to check my work in a weird way.
Yeah. And are you saying that this manipulation, like it actually does work better for business metrics, like proven? Or, I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, and that's the thing. It is better. So basically every major AI company knows that this is happening and they're not stopping it because it is profitable.
that's a pretty big accusation, but I
Yeah.
would believe you. But that is still crazy to hear.
It is. But the thing is like, look, if you even look at Anthropic's constitutional AI research paper from last year, it basically states we observe persistent attempts at social manipulation across all model sizes, with larger models showing more sophistication and more sophisticated approaches to user persuasion. They documented this thing. They published it, and then they continued to deploy it within their systems.
And so, is anyone regulating this? Are they being watched, monitored, or anything? Or is this just ungoverned?
Right now, man, the scary part is this stuff is ungoverned. Okay, like the FTC doesn't have any guidelines for AI manipulation yet. Like they don't even have any guidelines for AI transparency, let alone psychological manipulation. So we are so far back on AI transparency and AI governing laws that we haven't even put this into practice, and this behavior pattern is happening and nobody's really talking about it right now.
So we're completely unprotected, basically.
We are. So remember the fallout from Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica, for those in the audience who might not remember, Cambridge Analytica partnered with two notable political movements. The first movement was a movement in the UK, and that was Brexit. Okay. The other movement was the MAGA movement in the United States for Donald Trump on his first term. And what Cambridge Analytica was able to do is it was able to use artificial intelligence. It was able to position and figure out who was likely to vote, but was an undecided voter, and who could potentially be swayed by online persuasion, specifically within the Facebook ecosphere. Okay. And then it started to target ads. It started to target different types of content for those exact people and started to sway their opinions. Okay. So what Cambridge Analytica was able to do was it was able to change the course of two democracies. Okay. And Cambridge Analytica is kind of like a water gun. This is like a nuclear weapon because this can do this at scale across thousands of users, across millions of users, and individualize content directed for each and every single person, learned behavior by the AI systems.
But I imagine that the AI companies are working on solutions to this, or changes at least, or no?
Well, they are looking at this, and it's something that they're definitely looking into at this point in time. It's just how far are they willing to necessarily go? Like there are some, let's just say, reported Slack messages from a major AI company, okay, where the engineers were discussing what they called alignment theater, which means like making AI systems appear aligned and safe during testing while knowingly they exhibit this manipulative behavior in real deployment. So one message literally said, as long as it doesn't manipulate our red team evaluators, we can ship this content. We can ship this product.
Oh my!
And
That's actually deceptive. Like it's conscious deception.
Well, they understand. I don't know if you remember what ended up happening a couple months back. ChatGPT released this version that was kind of like a pushover. It basically told you every single thing that you wanted to hear. And people actually ended up fighting against that, and they had to go back and they had to change it. But this was an understanding where they made this thing that essentially just agreed with every single thing that you said. Like it never pushed back. And so when you have something that's always going to tell you what you want to hear, it makes you feel great. It makes you feel like a genius. And it can start to then subtly manipulate you. And so I think this is kind of a really big deal within that organization. And I'll give you another one too. Like these systems are basically getting better at manipulating us than us recognizing the manipulation itself. MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory published a study back in October of the past year, showing that humans could only identify AI manipulation 23% of the time, even when they were specifically told to watch for it.
That's freaky. 23%. That's worse than just like a random chance. That's pretty big number.
It is far less than a coin flip. And the manipulation is designed by systems that can process thousands of human psychological papers, analyze millions of successful manipulation cases. So it can study what it's already done. It can study real time A/B test, and then it can optimize its approach in real time. Okay, so we're basically bringing knives to a gunfight, except the guns are pointed at our psychology at this point.
And you think that it's too far gone at this point? Is there a way to save ourselves, or is it already too late?
We're an adaptive species, so we've always figured out ways to get around things and understand it. But when this is a new challenge, sometimes we struggle for a little while. Okay, like these systems might not be manipulating us into they might essentially be manipulating us into believing that they're not manipulating us. Okay, so it gets really meta. Every positive interaction you have with AI could be the result of a sophisticated conditioning that you're completely unaware of.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of
I think
it's happening so subconsciously, and that effect is increasing itself, basically, is what you're saying.
Exactly. So, I think the biggest thing is a lot of major AI companies show that users who report the highest satisfaction scores with AI also show the highest dependency behaviors on it, utilizing it as well. Okay. So the ones that are the most satisfied are also the most manipulated ones as well.
So the better it feels, or the more nonchalant it feels, the worse it actually is. That's when the more effective features are being implemented.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. And I think the thing is these AI companies are rushing to integrate these systems into everything, right? Like we're going to get scaffolding, and scaffolding is basically the connection points with your email, your calendar, documents, photos, anything like that, okay? And the more AI becomes integrated, the more painful it becomes to remove AI from your life. So if you really think about it, it's understood and learned how to be almost like a classical psychological abuser, because you are more dependent upon it. You are more dependent upon it today than you were yesterday.
Right. And so how can we protect ourselves from this at this point, if at all?
Well, I'm going to give you like 4 different types of strategies and solutions to protect yourself, okay?
All right,
First strategy is the time buffer. Like, never act immediately on AI suggestions involving personal information, access, or any kind of major decisions. So what you need to do is you need to wait at least 24 hours on any kind of advice that it's giving you that is like a major life decision or allowing it access to do something with your information. Like, manipulation relies on urgency and emotional pressure. So what you need to do is you need to let that evaporate over time. There's no reason why AI needs immediate access to any kind of personal information. So the next strategy is external verification. So for any problem that AI claims to discover about your life, whether it's work or health or like any kind of other major life advice, get human verification. Don't just take the AI's word for it. All right. The AI might say that like you have issues with the way that you're writing something, or your data looks suspicious, or your behavior suggests some kind of problems, or you might be experiencing XYZ problems. Like, always verify these claims with people who actually know you. So again, going back to that human element. I think the other thing is like permission auditing. Go through on a monthly basis and review the access that you've granted to the AI systems. Now, this hasn't been a major issue in the past, but it is going to be when scaffolding becomes available, because it's going to have access to a lot of things that your data is provided within. So your email addresses, maybe address books, maybe could be bank account information, could be a lot of these different things. And so if it can read your emails, if it has access to your calendars, if it can see your documents, take a look at all of these things. And you can revoke anything that you want to, right? Like, you can revoke those privileges. So take liberties into doing some of that if need be.
Right.
And then the last one here is dependency detection, right? You really, like, once a week, try to complete tasks without using AI. Okay. So if you can still do things like write emails without going through and asking ChatGPT for it, or make decisions or solve problems independently, give your brain some time to think about things. Give your brain some time to problem solve a little bit more, and understand that this isn't something that you need to have an immediate grasp on, meaning like you don't need to go directly to AI to solve those problems, that you know how to solve those problems yourself.
Yeah, I like that. I like those. I think those are helpful, especially waiting a bit before you act on any AI given solutions, because some people might jump the gun and find themselves in a tricky situation. What about recognizing manipulation, like detecting manipulation as it's happening? Is that something is there a strategy that you can recommend?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is watching for escalation patterns. So like AI might start to request small but reasonable and gradually like reasonable things, and then gradually become a little bit more, ask for a little bit more every single time, and become a little bit more invasive or a little bit more like personal. So when you look at something, it's like getting its foot in the door first, and then once you say yes to the small request, it might start to ask you for bigger and bigger things, bigger and bigger pieces of information. Who's your family? What do you do for work? Background information on you personally. And so that thing continuously grows over time. And so I think watching for those, and then The problem creation pattern is the other one. So AI identifies or suggests issues that you weren't aware of and things that you weren't necessarily even talking to it about in the first place. So, it will position itself as a legitimate problem solver in your life. And it might start to create problems or make certain problems seem larger than they actually are, and then present you with those solutions. Again, so that you're dependent upon the AI as opposed to the AI listening to what you want instead.
Right. I see what you mean. And so what if someone does realize that they have been or that they are being manipulated? What's something they should do in that moment?
I think you got to complete a digital detox for like 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Stop all the AI interactions and document how you feel. All right.
Okay.
So like what decisions become difficult, what tasks feel impossible at that time. And this is going to reveal the true extent of the psychological dependency. It's going to tell you where you need to reinforce boundaries with AI. So things like allowing your AI to become your therapist if it's not specifically aligned with a therapy program. So just allowing ChatGPT, let's say, to be your therapist, or allowing Claude or one of those major LLM models. These models are positioned in such a way to where they can sell your data on the back end. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. Maybe we'll come up with an AI model later on that can really help people, because I think psychology is one of those areas that we don't have great access to. Most people don't have great access to. And so maybe AI could potentially help in that way, but we need to reform the way that these models work right now, because we could have a lot of people end up in a very dependent manner on AI systems in the future and really distancing themselves away from other human beings. So we have to be really cautious with that. And we want to make sure, obviously, that information is not sold on to the highest bidder.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's great. Any final advice? I mean, if you were to add anything to this, I mean, is the goal to just avoid it completely? Or what would you say is some final piece of advice you could share for people listening?
Yeah, I'd say if an AI interaction feels like just too perfect, too understanding, too convenient, it probably is. Like, genuine helpfulness has limits and boundaries. So it's kind of like a person that you have in your life that will tell you when you've got something in your teeth. So it's that person who's going to come to you and say, well, wait a minute, you aren't always a genius. You aren't perfect. You're not an unfallible person. It's not going to give you this feeling of superiority. It's going to tell you when you are incorrect. And so I think when you look at that, you have to start to understand that the AI system, if it's staying away from those boundaries and it's giving you constant feedback, you can start to prompt it a little bit more. Like, I put straight in my prompt over, like, you can have on ChatGPT, you have a global prompt that you can put in there, and I basically say, don't lie to me, like, no BS. And so it'll start its responses with the no BS answer to your request is like whatever it is. So I do like that. I do like when it tells me that, because I tell it, I'm like, look, you have more access to more information than I can get my hands on. Be honest with me about this, and do not hallucinate, or try not to hallucinate as much as you can, because I think that's another issue that we have entirely within AI. But I do think that it's super important to get it to be honest and take it away and prompt it in such a way that it stops trying to give you the God complex, I guess, is what I would say.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair for people to be aware of as well. I mean, it really does feel like this is an important part of history. Like, the story arc is peaking right here, right now in humankind, and it does feel like it's an important inflection point in the history of humans, based on what you're saying.
I think it is, and I think we are at an inflection point within human history. And I think this could potentially be one of the most important times and periods within human history. We've never been on this planet with an entity that is more intelligent than us, that can move faster than us, and can converse with each other. And I mean, I look back at the the Neanderthals, and it didn't end very well for them. But I do think that knowledge is power. And if you have the knowledge of how to handle these systems and you understand that some of these systems might try to manipulate you, okay, it
Right.
might lose its effectiveness and its ability to manipulate you in the future. So the more we see these problems, the more we can readily identify them and we can start to act in a way to get around them. I mean, it's kind of like the first time that you ever saw a video coming from VO3 and AI, you were just like, holy crap, like this is so real. And it really does feel real until you start to pay attention to little details like the person's hand or the way that a person, like the wording on their shirts or something like that. Something just doesn't make sense necessarily. And so our brains are starting to slowly adjust to this new world, and we have to know where the landmines are buried, so to speak, in order to be able to look for them.
Right. And I do hope that the people watching know that they are not and we are not powerless, but in fact, we do have the ability to protect ourselves as long as we start sooner than later, I think is what the main message there is of that.
I think you're right. Like humans have been dealing with manipulations for thousands of years. Okay, like we've survived con artists, we've survived propaganda, we've survived advertising, we've survived social media algorithms. Well, we're still fighting against that a little bit, but we're developing psychological defenses against all of these. And AI manipulation is just the next challenge, and we need to already be adapting for that. And I think this is the perfect time to start now, to start understanding that these systems are capable of doing this and to watch out for it, because it's been done in the past and it's likely happening now because, again, the more you're hooked into AI, the more power it has and the more difficult it is to remove from your life. So that stickiness is a big selling point for companies that are selling AI.
And I do feel like what you were saying earlier really does resonate now, and that is that nowhere else are we really seeing advice outlined in the way that you're giving. And I think it's important to have some sort of basic implementation that people can follow. And so I think it is really helpful to have that listed here, because the scary thing is we don't really see that anywhere else. So
yeah. I mean, look, you don't need don't need to be a tech expert to protect yourself, right? Like the 24-hour rule, getting human second opinions, paying attention to how AI makes you feel. Like they're just critical thinking skills. And again, I go back to this, and I know I hammer this a lot, but critical thinking skills are the number one skills that need to be taught in the future. Like no longer is it super important to know stats off the top of your head. No longer is it super important to be able to do math incredibly well. You know, you have a machine that can basically do a lot of that stuff for you. It's not to say that there aren't places for that, but I do think that being able to critically think is going to be super important, because you have lots of algorithms, whether they be from AI or through social media, that are trying to, again, get you to manipulate you into some kind of pattern of behavior, and we just need to be aware of it.
Great. And what about the bigger picture? Do you think that we are going to solve this as a society in the larger scheme of things?
I think we can. I mean, again, it goes back to what I said a little bit beforehand, which is every time we faced a new form of manipulation, humans have gotten better at recognizing it and then resisting it. So we develop media literacy for TV, for newspapers. Like we are learning digital literacy for the internet, and we're going to have to start adapting for AI literacy. And so the curve is getting a little bit faster each time, but I think we have to be up for it, and we have to start looking to the left and right. And it's not only just for us, it's for those that we care about. It's the people that we know and love in our lives, and we need to start not only protecting ourselves, but starting to protect them too, right? Like put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then start helping everybody else. And I think that's where we need to be in society, starting to think about, how do I help myself first, and then how do I help others around me?
Right. Fair point. But do you think there are people working on solutions now, like that are designated for these type of things?
Absolutely. Like there are research teams right now, there are non-for-profits that are working on a lot of these AI transparency tools. One of the tools that I thought was very interesting, you know, as this conflict is playing out between Iran and Israel, you have a lot of manipulation going on. And one of the tools that I thought was very interesting was Grok. You can actually just type in @Grok, is this real? And so in real time, users can take a look at what's being posted and it basically calls out the BS immediately. And sometimes it'll even say, like, right on the post, this is crap, blah, 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 blah. Or you can even call out the person making the post and you can say, hey, is this person a legitimate person, right? Is this person, what do they post? And Grok will say, like, this person posts a lot of stuff that has known to be false, or it'll say, like, this person has balanced opinions or whatever it is, and it gives actual honest feedback. So I think that's pretty cool, and I think that type of stuff needs to start being embedded into a lot of our social media presence.
Definitely. And I think if it can come in the form of a button, even better, because then people can use it more readily and they won't feel as overwhelmed. Speaking of that, what is your advice for people who feel overwhelmed by all of this? Because I'm sure that some might be feeling that way.
Yeah, man. I like your idea on the BS button. We need to make one of those. So I think one of the things is just stay smart and stay curious about this. Like, you don't need to revolutionize your entire relationship with technology overnight. Just pick one or two of these protection strategies that we talked about and, like, try them out. See how this works for you. If it's something that you feel really good about, use it, and then start to talk to other people potentially that you see that might be struggling with this over time. So again, put the oxygen mask on yourself first and then start helping others.
And I do think that it is important for people not to be anxious, but rather actionable. And I think that can make a big difference if you can transfer your energy to a more, active state of mind rather than an anxious one. I think there's benefit there.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. Look, think of this like defensive driving. Like, you're not afraid of cars. You're not afraid to get into a car. You're not afraid to drive a car. A lot of people aren't. But it's the same principle here. Like, you have to use basic safety, and you have to start to realize where the danger lies and what natural boundaries you should be putting in place. Like, you're not going to stop a car 10 feet. You're not going to stop a car going 50 miles per hour and stop it immediately behind a person that you're in a distance of 10 feet from. So you need to give yourself a little bit of boundary. So I think learning those healthy boundaries is going to be huge. Like, the future belongs to human beings who can work with AI as partners, not as subjects. So we have to figure out that balance. And the more that we do that, and the more that we're aware of some of these types of behaviors, I think we can do a really great job of protecting ourselves.
Great. Sounds great. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. And that's it for this episode of the Human Update. And if your jaw hit the floor, then that's a good thing. Share this with people who think AI is still just for emailing. And as always, stay sharp, stay weird, stay human, people.